thank Dr. Ehler for giving this wonderful opportunity to be here. I wanted to thank Justin also, being a wonderful guy. I mean, when I was actually from India, I used to mail him and he used to be so kind and just figure out everything for me and made my transition pretty smooth. Thank you for that. I want to thank each and every one here, and every single one is so lovely. And it means a lot to me. It's been 6 months in the US, and I feel just like home. Yeah, that's one thing that I always feel that wherever God's people are, there's always love. Amen. And I want to start off with a story. I was with Dr. David Grant yesterday, and he said the story, and I heard the story before itself. He said that Project Rescue handles victims from prostitution, and they recover women from brothels. And the first time they actually started the rescue was they got 37 young girls, less than 13 years old. And during then, there was this madam who handles a prostitution site, said, take this kid, also a 3-year-old kid who's HIV positive, and said, take this, she's not going to live long. And what happened was, Dr. Grant also didn't have that faith, and he said, we pray about it. And he gave it to the doctor. And doctor, after 6-7 months, he called David Grant and he said, I've never seen a miracle. 30 years of my experience, I've never seen a miracle like this. When the child was tested once again, there was no glow of HIV positive.
Wow.
I mean, that's where we see God doing. Sometimes we see, is God doing? We often ask God, where is God? Can I feel it? Or can I actually see Him? What I wanted to talk today is freedom is in Christ. One of the biggest things that you need to understand is freedom is very much personal. And when Paul talks about, as the passage goes on further, he talks about one thing. As childbirth, he talks about childbirth. Childbirth is not an easy process. 9 months of process, 9 months of pain, 9 months of actually caring. And I know I can't talk about a women's situation as much as a woman, but we understand how much Paul is actually talking to Galatians. I want to read this scripture, Galatians chapter 4, verses 15 onwards. Where then is your blessing for me now? I can testify that if you could have done so, what would you have torn out your eye and given it to me? Have I now become your enemy by telling the truth? These people are zealous to win you over, but not for no good. What they want is to alienate you from us, so that you may have zeal for them. It is fine to be zealous, provided the purpose is good, and to be always, not just when I am with you, my dear children, for whom I am again in the pain of childbirth, until Christ is formed in you. Now I wish I could be with you and change my tone, because I'm perplexed about you. Tell me, you who want to be under the law, are you not aware what the law says? For it is written that Abraham had 2 sons, one by the slave women and the other by free women. His son by the slave women was born according to the flesh. His son by the free women was born according to divine promise. We need to understand freedom. Paul is talking to Galatian people. He is seeing a difference with people, but what he sees is we look into essence like the Galatian people are very legalistic, but the main reason was not that. They removed the essence of Christ and made works as more important. it is what they felt that it is not faith anymore.
Yeah.
It is what I do. When you go into Genesis chapter 15 and you see how God says to Abraham to actually have an identity marker, it was initially the faith. And then the identification marker was there. That was the main problem with Galatians. And when we see that Galatians recognized Paul's ministry initially, like before we read, verses 14 and 13, we see that they had so much of love for Galatians, to Paul. Galatian people had so much of love to Paul. But Paul is asking, what happened now? Why are you not giving me the same love? Because Paul understood there's something different. When Christ was in them, there was freedom. When Christ was in them, there was love. But once the work, what the Judaizers said, you do this, you would attain salvation. You do this, attain salvation. The ultimate effect, the ultimate answer of love was lost. The message of the entire Bible is just one thing: redemption act of God.
Good.
And what is that? It is redemption act through love. And why, when I talk, the people of Galatians understood that even though these people are telling, they themselves, the Judaizers themselves, did not have what's the right answer. And Rabbi Zachariah once asked a Muslim person, are you sure by you doing so many things to a Muslim person, are you sure when you do so and so and so, will you reach salvation? He said, there is no guarantee. But Rabbi Zachariah said this, but once you call on the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, that you are sure that you will attain salvation. And Paul was really, in his heart, he understood, I need to bring these people back. And he said that freedom is to make the God's main thing the main thing. And it is important that freedom should understand from God's perspective and not from man's perspective. When we understand from man's perspective, we lose out the significant understanding. But when we understand from God's perspective, we become holistic in everything. The freedom becomes holistic. Socrates said like this, I think it's Socrates who said, if everyone demonstrates freedom, there's no freedom at all. But when God says about freedom, when I give freedom, there's freedom indeed. And when it comes to there is no greater joy for evil than to bring a small confusion. A small confusion is what changed the entire destiny of man from the start of Adam and Eve. A small confusion. The same way a small confusion of saying it's not faith, it's works that is more important, changed the entire understanding of Galatian people. And separation is the biggest failure in relationship. When a man separates from God, the freedom itself is gone. Have you ever thought of when you are in darkness, when you get comfortable with darkness? You feel, I can see something on the light. You would have a strain in your eye for a second. But the vision that you have in the light is way further than in darkness. Galatian people were the same. They were in darkness, but they got accustomed to the darkness. But when Paul wants to say is, this is not what you really wanted here. Come back, I will show you light. Because in Galatians, initially it says that no one taught me It is Jesus himself who taught everything. And he understood that the works don't really matter anywhere, but it was only faith. As Malcolm said, freedom in justification and sanctification. It is freedom in God that will bring you ultimate results. And verses 20 says, "How I wish I could be with you. Now I change my tone and I be perplexed about you. And tell me what you want under the law." Here it's not a law. I was confused to understand why is he using law here. 430 years before Moses was Abraham. Then I understood. It is not the law of Moses he's talking about. He is talking about the Torah, or the first 4 books of the Bible. And he then says, the Judaizers said that, look at Abraham. He also circumcised. He would have probably, I assume that if Judaizers would have told, look at Paul. He asked his own disciple to circumcise. What do you think about that? Who is a liar? Am I a liar, or is Paul a liar? The confusion they got in. But Paul came to a point that he said, they spoke about Abraham, but what happened before that? And he says that his son by the slave woman was born according to the flesh. Douglas Moo says very nicely, he says, Ishmael was born of flesh. There was no divine intervention. But for Isaac to be born, there was a divine intervention. Because Sarah was not at the age of conceiving. It is the promise of God that brings freedom. It is the promise that shows that God is there with you. If today I'm challenging each and every one of you, if you have a promise of God in your life, if you have a sense of calling in your life, and you are moving away, the best place is the place where God is calling you, not to move away from it. And Galatians also was like that. They were moving away from God, seeing the small aspects. But when you see the bigger picture, you will understand God is where He called you. And I want to say, the verses 23, born according to flesh. Academically, it's a word in Greek, it's called sarx. Kata sarx is word according to flesh. The aspect of flesh and spirit is very much important in the book of Galatians. And flesh, a lot of people wouldn't understand. It was not just a manly flesh that he was talking about. It was actually talking about a sinful desire. Just go back to Genesis chapter 15. You see Abraham has sinful desire that made Hagar conceive? Yes. It is only the divine promise, as it says, the free woman was born from the result of divine promises. It is only in divine promise you attain freedom. As I want to conclude, it says, freedom is to live with God like in heaven, on earth. Freedom is to live on earth like in heaven. You attain freedom. You ask God, God, there's so much of things happening around. Can you give me freedom today? A lot of people I know from India, family is torn. They are struggling, financially struggling. There's a lot of emotional disturbance. The community leaders are actually having domestic violence. But once they accepted Jesus Christ, they have freedom. That's what I want to encourage each and every one. A true freedom is in Christ. Thank you.